I know from my own experience in the first place that it might be difficult to sort the conditionals out, especially the second, third, and mixed conditionals, which we'll learn about in the upcoming lessons. But I promise it is not that hard once you understand how to use them. And I'll help you do this by giving you some real-life examples. First and foremost, conditional sentences are sentences that describe a relationship between two events or situations where one depends on the other. They are made up of two parts: the condition that we're going to be referring to as if clause and the result, main clause. Let's start with the zero conditional, the easiest one. This verb form is used to talk about things that are always true or will always happen in the present or future. And when we say that it's true, it might even be something that is true particularly for you and not necessarily for somebody else. To make a zero conditional sentence, you need, as we now know, two parts: the condition and the result. The condition will be the if clause, and it'll be in the present simple tense. And the main clause, the result, will also be in the present simple tense. So let me give you some examples. Imagine you're making coffee in the morning and you say, let's say to your roommate, "If I don't have coffee in the morning, I'm grumpy all day." Or, let's imagine that you're a bartender and you're teaching someone how to make coffee. You might say, "If you add too much water, the coffee is too weak." So both of these sentences have conditions in the first clause that, if met, make the second clause true. I don't have coffee in the morning, I'm grumpy all day, which is true for me and might be for you. And if you add too much water, the coffee is too weak, which is true in general. There's no other option. You can't make strong coffee by adding too much water to it. If you're writing these sentences, note that you need to put a comma between the clauses. So, to sum up, the zero conditional is used to talk about things that are always true or will always happen in the present or future. There's no other options. It is very useful for teaching and explaining the cause and effect in everyday life. Now let's move on to the first conditional. So we use this verb form to talk about things that are likely to happen in the future if a certain condition is fulfilled. In other words, to talk about something that might happen in the future and what will happen as a result of it. It's like a prediction or guess. You can use the first conditional to talk about possible plans, promises, warnings, threats, or for persuading someone. To make a sentence in the first conditional, you might use the word if followed by something that might happen, and then what will happen if it does. You can see the formula on the screen, and as you can see, we use the present simple tense in the if clause, and we normally use the future simple tense in the main clause. And the key word here is normally, because we can also use modal verbs like can, may, might, or could in the main clause to express possibility in the future. And we don't use will in the first clause. Now, let's take a look at some real-life examples. Imagine you're planning a picnic, and you say, "If it doesn't rain tomorrow, we'll have a picnic in the park." Or, if you're trying to convince your friend to come to the picnic, you might say, "If you come to the picnic, you'll get to try my famous potato salad," which might be a positive or a negative thing. So in these two examples, we have something that might happen in the future in the first clause, and something that will happen in the second clause if the condition in the first clause is fulfilled. Let's take a look at another example. If he goes to the Taylor Swift concert tomorrow, he could get her autograph. This was kind of easy to understand. So if he goes to the concert, this is something that might happen in the future. There's a chance of him getting the singer's autograph. So here we're kind of making a guess. As we stated earlier, we can also use the first conditional as a warning. And for this, I'll use one of the modal verbs. For instance, if you don't do the dishes, Dad might take away your allowance. If this condition is met, if you don't do the dishes, the possible result might be that Dad might take away your allowance. I'm warning you. Now let's use it with imperative. If you don't know, this means to give a command. So, for instance, if you see that man again, call me immediately. So in the first clause, we have the condition, and if it's fulfilled, you should do what is being told in the second clause. You can also turn the sentence around and use the main clause as the first part of the sentence and the if clause as the second part. And in this case, you don't need a comma between the two clauses. Let's take our last statement as an example. If you see that man again, call me immediately. You can turn it around and say, call me immediately if you see that man again. To sum up, we've learned about the zero and first conditionals and how they are used in real life. While the zero conditional talks about things that are always true and will always happen, the first conditional talks about things that are likely to happen in the future based on a real condition in the present. Okay, so let's make this clear. Let's take the example where we were pretending to be a bartender and we were teaching someone to make coffee, and we said, if you add too much water, the coffee is too weak. So there's no other options. You cannot make strong coffee by adding too much water to it. This is just the truth. However, let's take a look at another situation. Let's imagine that you see someone making coffee and they are about to add too much water, so you can use the first conditional here and warn them and say, if you add too much water, the coffee will be too weak. So in the first example, we have something that is always true, and in the second example, we have a possibility that something might happen or might not happen in the future. So we have a real condition in the present. We have someone who's making coffee right now. And if they add too much water right now, there's a chance that coffee might turn out too weak. One piece of advice that I'd like to give you is this. Don't learn these grammatical forms memorizing what the zero and first conditionals are unless you need to be able to explain this to someone. Focus on how and when to use them and apply them in real life. Now it's time to learn about the second conditional. Have you ever wondered how to talk about hypothetical situations or unreal possibilities in English? Well, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of the second conditional, so let's dive in. The second conditional is a grammatical structure we use to talk about hypothetical, unreal, or imaginary situations in the present or future. We use it when we want to imagine what might happen if a particular condition is met. It's my son's favorite conditional. Mom, do you know what I would do if I were a dinosaur? Mom, if I were a superhero, I would save the world from the bad guys. The second conditional has two parts. The if clause, which expresses the condition, and the main clause, which expresses the consequence or result of that condition. It allows us to imagine different outcomes based on specific conditions. It's a way to explore possibilities and express our desires and dreams. Now let's take a closer look at the structure of the second conditional. In the if clause, we use the simple past tense of the verb. And in the main clause, we normally use the modal verb would followed by the base form of the verb, but we can also use some other modal verbs like could or might in the main clause. To make it easier to understand, let's see some examples. Imagine you have a superpower. What would it be? We can use the second conditional to express our answer. If I had a superpower, it would be the ability to fly. In this example, we are talking about a hypothetical situation where having a superpower is the condition, because having Marvel Universe-like superpowers is impossible as far as I know. Here, had is the simple past tense in the if clause, and the main clause, which would be the ability to fly, expresses our desire. Now let's imagine that your coworker asks you a question like, would you be able to help me with this project? You don't necessarily need to use would in the answer. You could say something like, if I had more time, I might be able to help you, but I'm all wrapped up. You don't necessarily need to use would in the answer. This means that you have so much work that you don't have time to work on something else besides your tasks. If you used would here, it would mean that you're certain that if you had more time, you would help. However, using might expresses uncertainty. So not only don't you have time, but you're also not even sure that you are, for example, knowledgeable enough to be able to help. But it's possible that you would try. And this answer is hypothetical because in reality, you don't have time for this. Let's take a look at another example. If I had more time, I would learn how to play the guitar. This example means that you don't have enough free time, but you're imagining what you would do with that free time if you had it. It reflects a desire to pursue a hobby or develop a new skill if given the opportunity. Let's take one more example. If I spoke fluent Mandarin, I could work as an interpreter in China. As you can see, we use the modal verb could instead of would to express the possible scenario or result of my imaginary condition. In this example, the condition is speaking fluent Mandarin, which is currently not the case. That's why this is a hypothetical situation. The consequence of speaking Mandarin fluently could be my ability to work as an interpreter in China. Could shows that I consider using my language skills for this specific purpose, and I imagine that something like this could be possible for me. Now let's practice forming more second conditional together to reinforce what we've learned. It's important to remember that we are talking about imaginary scenarios, not things that are likely to happen. It helps us express our imagination, desires, and unreal possibilities. It's a useful tool for storytelling and even making polite requests. It is not used for situations that are likely or possible in reality. We use the first conditional for real or probable future situations. Remember that in the if clause, we use the simple past tense, and in the main clause, we use would followed by the base form of the verb. Okay, here's the first one. If it rained tomorrow, what would you do? Take a moment to think about your answer and let's share it together. All right, time's up. Here's the possible answer. If it rained tomorrow, we would have a cozy movie night indoors. Let's do another one. If you had more free time, what would you do with it? Take a moment to think about your answer. All right, time's up. Here's my answer. If I had more free time, I would travel the world. And the last one. Imagine if it started to snow tomorrow. What would you do? Take a few moments to think about your answer. All right, here's my answer. If it snowed tomorrow, I would be very surprised as it's almost summer. Congratulations, you've successfully learned about the second conditional. If you have ever wondered about how to talk about regrets or missed opportunities in English but didn't know how to properly express this, then you're in luck, because in this video we'll learn about the grammatical structure that does exactly this, the third conditional. And by the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of how to use it. So let's jump right in. We use the third conditional to talk about something that didn't happen in the past and imagine what would have happened as a result of it. It allows us to imagine what could have happened differently if the past had been different. It's a powerful tool to discuss regrets, missed opportunities, consider alternative scenarios, and things that could have been different. The third conditional consists of two parts: the if clause, which expresses the unreal past condition, and the main clause, which expresses the hypothetical past outcome. Now let's take a closer look at the structure of the third conditional. In the if clause, we use the past perfect tense, which is the auxiliary verb had plus past participle, or what we also call the third form of the verb. And in the main clause, we normally use would have followed by the past participle of the verb, but it's also possible to use could have. To make it easier to understand, let's see some examples. Imagine a missed opportunity in the past, and we'll use the third conditional to express what could have happened differently. If they had accepted the job offer, they would have been promoted by now. As you can see, here we used had with the word accepted, which is the past participle of the verb accept in the if clause. And in the main clause, we used would have with the word been, which is the past participle of the verb be. In this example, the condition is accepting a job offer, which is something that didn't happen in the past. And the hypothetical outcome, meaning that we're imagining what could have happened, is the person's promotion that they might have gotten by now if they had accepted the job offer. But they didn't. None of that actually happened. It demonstrates the potential career advancement they could have achieved had they made a different decision in the past. Remember that you can turn the sentence around and put the main clause first and say they would have been promoted by now if they had accepted the job offer. Or to make it sound even more advanced, you could drop the if and say they would have been promoted by now had they accepted the job offer. Let's take a look at another example. If I had bought Bitcoin early on, I would have made a fortune. Here, the condition is purchasing Bitcoin early on, which is something that didn't happen in the past. The hypothetical outcome is the person's financial success or making a fortune if they had invested in Bitcoin at an earlier stage. It expresses a regret and reflects the missed opportunity and the potential wealth they could have accumulated. Let's sort out another example. If they had listened to the advice, they wouldn't have faced such difficulties. So this sentence means that they didn't listen to the advice in reality, and they did face difficulties because of that. And we're emphasizing the importance of taking guidance and suggestions to potentially prevent negative consequences. These examples illustrate how the third conditional allows us to reflect on past events and imagine different outcomes. While these scenarios are hypothetical, they enable us to express regrets, consider alternative paths, and acknowledge how things could have been different in the past. Now let's practice forming more third conditional sentences together. And remember that in the if clause, we use the past perfect tense, and in the main clause, we use would have plus the past participle of the verb. Okay, here's the first one. If you had known about the party, what would you have done? Take a moment to think about your answer and let's share it together. Okay, time's up. Here's an example answer. If I had known about the party, I would have come and had a great time. Great job. Let's try another one. If she had saved the money, what would she have bought? Share your thoughts and ideas with us. All right, time's up. Here's an example answer. If she had saved the money, she would have bought a new car. Fantastic, you guys. Now, to give you full understanding, let's compare the second conditional to the third conditional. For this comparison, we'll take a look at the same situation. First, I'll say it in the second conditional and then in the third conditional. The second conditional. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. And the third conditional, if I had won the lottery, I would have traveled around the world. So, if I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. This sentence follows the second conditional structure, expressing an unreal or unlikely situation in the present or future. It suggests that we do not expect to win the lottery, but if we did, we would use the money to travel around the world. And if I had won the lottery, I would have traveled around the world. This sentence follows the third conditional structure, expressing a hypothetical situation in the past and its imaginary outcome. It implies that at some point in the past, we did play the lottery and did not win, and as a result, we did not travel around the world. We speculate on what would have happened if we had won the lottery, indicating that we would have used the money to travel around the world. In summary, the second conditional deals with unreal or unlikely situations in the present or future, while the third conditional focuses on a hypothetical situation in the past and its imaginary outcome, typically with regret and reflection on what could have happened.